Hi everyone, welcome to another video. Before we get started, a few shout outs today. So big shout out to T-Lane, to Daniel Freer, to Mia Jade, to M12 Productions and to Jolly Lowellman 23. I apologise if I'm not sounding myself at the minute. I'm not particularly well, so I'm going to try and get through this video as best as I can so that you guys still have a video to revise from this weekend. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the second of the two film posters that you've been asked to look at, which is the historical product, and this is for The Man with the Golden Gun, part of the James Bond franchise, as Spectre was last week. So we're going to start off with the fact that this poster is made up of illustrations. Now, this is a very common convention of posters that are sort of pre-1990 due to the limited technology that they had at the time. Although having said that, there are parts of this that are particularly sort of relevant or perhaps quite modern for its time, which we're going to come on to in just a little bit. Another convention is the fact that we've got these visuals that represent the narrative. So, for instance, the car that you can see in the top left corner, that actually occurs not only in the film itself, but also in the trailer as well. So this really does give a visual representation of the narrative. It means the audience don't have to work so hard to decode the meaning, but they do have to sort of, because of the amount of content that's on there, they do have to work a little bit to figure out exactly how it all fits together. We've got another common convention and a unique selling point is the name of the main actor, which we didn't have on the Spectre poster, or we did, but it was very, very small. Here you can see how normally posters would use the main character, the main actor's name as a point to attract an audience. And this is very prominently placed to attract not only the audience who are fans of Roger Moore, but also the fans of the James Bond franchise, as both of them are sort of linked together. We've also got the fact that Bond is wearing a suit. Now, again, this is very similar to what we've seen on Spectre, and so you guys should be drawing some parallels between this poster and Spectre. This implies that he's got wealth, power and status, but the fact that he's underneath the James Bond sort of name at the top implies that this is James Bond and that he's obviously going to be the hero of this piece. We've got direct mode of address being used by the majority of the characters on here. This creates a connection with the demographic, but again, Bond is looking very stern, very serious, which could put up some barriers between us and him in terms of that connection. Now, the central image is a mid-shot of Bond. He's got a very iconic closed stance, so again, drawing parallels from the Spectre poster. He's suggesting that he's a protagonist because he's the largest person on there. Also, the fact that he's dominant as well. We've got font that maintains the house style here, so it's in serif font, implying a little bit more informality, but it's also in red, which suggests an element of danger or warning, and all of this includes the sort of house style that we've got in this poster. It also credits the author of the original text, so for those of you who aren't aware, James Bond originates from a series of novels by Ian Fleming, so we're crediting him there as well, and that typography is very, very similar to the credit block as a whole. Now, the colour and the position of the gun that we've got here suggests wealth and status, but it also hints at the narrative because the bullet has got 007 etched into it. Now, 007 is Bond's alias and his sort of call sign, and so this signifies that he's going to be in danger, as we would expect, during this particular narrative. As we said, the credit block is very conventionally placed and sized. Some parts of it are made larger, so the bits that are going to act as bigger selling points are going to be made larger so that people can read it. There's not as much information in the credit block here as there was in Spectre or in other posters, so that might be something that you guys want to have a look at and compare as additional revision. Both Bond and this unknown villain show hyper-masculine qualities. Bond also implies that if you're like him in some way, then you're going to be more attractive as he's surrounded by women, which we'll come on to in just a little while. The martial arts that we've seen here could be something that reflects a growing popularity within the genre. So at the time that this was produced, which was sort of 1970s, Kung Fu and martial arts films were becoming more and more popular. So this is a way of, again, drawing in a larger audience. Another thing that relates to the time that this was produced was the power plant and the energy beam that we've got here. Now, this provides some link to historical context because in 1973 there was a very prominent energy crisis which caused concern for quite a lot of people. So by including that here, we've got real world fears being included, and it makes it more enticing and engaging and realistic for an audience. Now the layered images that we've got here, and there's an awful lot of layering going on with the different parts of this poster, have different meanings. So for instance, the women that we've got overlaid across James Bond could signify that they're trying to protect him, and this would act then as a subverted stereotype of the female gender. On the whole though, women are overly sexualised, and we can compare that through the representation of Bond and also the representation of the women, particularly those who are dressed in the bikinis. This is a stereotype for not only the genre but the franchise as a whole, and the only woman that we've got who sort of subverts this is that female kung fu artist, but this is racial stereotyping rather than gender stereotyping, and the image itself is much, much smaller. Okay, so breaking this down into our key concepts then. In terms of language, we have far more media language on this poster than we did on Spectre, and the majority of the media language relates to the narrative directly. So it's either images that come directly from the trailer and the film, or images that directly indicate what's going to happen, such as the fact that Bond is going to be in danger within this particular film. Now in terms of our industry, again, this poster doesn't have a BBFC rating, so it suggests that the poster was produced before the film was made, and there's no release date on this either, so it suggests that this is going to act as some sort of teaser to draw people in. We've also got Roger Moore's name in that large eye-catching typography, which acts as this unique selling point, drawing in fans of Roger Moore as well as fans of the Bond franchise and making that overall audience much larger. Now in terms of our audience, the primary audience are going to be slightly older, if only for the reason that typically sort of Bond was something that was considered a little bit older, a little bit more mature, so you needed to be a little bit more mature in order to go and see it and to really take it in. So 24 to 40 males. We're still looking at the aspirers, but we're likely to have mainstreamers as well, because the Bond sort of franchise as a whole is made up of lots of films, and they were released more close together, or they seem to be released more closely together compared to the way that they are now. So it was a little bit more mainstream. Secondary audience are going to be very similar to the Spectre poster, 40 to 60, A to C1 succeeders. Now in terms of representation, both genders are presented on the poster, so we've got men and women, which is different to what we had in Spectre. In terms of the males, there's hypermasculine representation of Bond, who illustrates this through his closed body language, but we've also got this unknown antagonist or villain who's got the golden gun, and he illustrates this hypermasculine stance through the fact that he's linked together with this gun, and that implies a sense of strength and manliness. Women, on the other hand, tend to be represented very stereotypically, particularly those who are dressed in the bikinis, but we do have an element of women protecting Bond through the way that those images are layered on the page. We've also got that female martial artists as well. And we've also got real life concerns indicated through the references to contextual details, such as the 1973 energy crisis, which adds intrigue to the film as a whole, as people are likely to want to see what the sort of catastrophe could be, how it can be solved, are we going to be safe, that sort of thing. Okay guys, so I'm sorry that was such a quick rattle through of this poster, but I did want you guys to have something that you could revise from today. We've got quite a few key terms, so what you might want to do is to make yourself a little glossary sheet with the definitions of any of these that you're not already aware of. If you have used some of these in your work already, go back through it and highlight them so it really jumps out at you when you're looking at your revision. If you don't already, you can subscribe to my channel by hitting the button down below. You'll get a shout out if your subscriptions are visible. If they're not visible and you need a shout out, just pop a comment in the comment section below and I'll put you on the list for a shout out next week. You can also ask me any questions or give me any comments in the comment section below, and I do my best to respond to every single one. Or you can get in touch with me through Twitter at media_revision. And I've just started an Instagram at GCSE Media Revision. I've not posted too much on there at the moment. There was a little bit of English revision on there the other day, but I'll be posting more as I do more in my lessons, and also as I find things that I think you guys might find useful. So do check that out and have a look for something a little bit different. And I will see you guys next week for another video.